Shalom, everybody. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief brought to you by Lay of the Land. And we are bringing you all the important updates regarding Operation Swords of Iron, or Israel's war against Hamas. And I do stress that it's a war against Hamas, not the people of Gaza. So let's take a look at some of those important developments. Yesterday, we had a massive barrage of rockets fired from the strip towards central Israel, sending millions of us into our bomb shelters. Now, some of you may know that my studio where I record this is also my bomb shelter. So if sirens do go off, I will just carry on broadcasting and trying to remain as calm as possible. Hamas claimed responsibility for 2 long-range rockets fired, one towards the north, which was spotted in the southern part of Haifa, and one towards the southernmost tip of Israel, the city of Eilat. That one fell in an empty field. And I think it's important to explain, because there are elements in the media that put these rockets down to being, very basic or rudimentary. These are not rudimentary rockets. These are sophisticated rockets, and they cause significant damage and have actually killed several people. So I want to clear up that point, because it's very, very important when we talk about Hamas firing rockets from within their civilian population to our civilian population, that these are not rudimentary homemade rockets. Let's talk about the United Nations, because this was a hornet's nest yesterday. The United Nations Security Council gathered for among many things, to discuss Israel's war with Hamas. Now, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his remarks, said that the kind of attack that Hamas took on the 7th of October does not happen in a vacuum. And he went on to say Israel's occupation of Gaza. Very, very important. Israel pulled out of Gaza in 2005. We pulled out our dead, we left our greenhouses, and in response we have had these firing of rockets and this never-ending cycle of rockets and retaliation, culminating in this horrific massacre on the 7th of October. Now, of course, you can imagine this elicited a very, very strong response. And I'll start with Israel's Foreign Minister, Eli Cohen, who was present in the plenary. He intoned the Kaddish, the prayer for the dead. He also spoke about the victims and their stories, some of the hostages and their stories, holding up pictures of the hostages while some of their family members sat in the plenum. He also appealed to the UN Secretary General, what world do you live in? What world do you live in where you blame the victim? And also cautioned him and the rest of the countries present in the plenary that you could be next, that Israel is the first, but you could be next. Something we see many Western countries actually fearing. Now, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Ambassador Gilad Erdan, went a step further, calling on the Secretary General to resign. Israel's opposition leaders Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz also tweeted out their condemnation of his comments. And earlier today, Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial and Museum, put out their statements saying that the Secretary General, who has always claimed never again, has failed in his mission. However, yesterday, Guterres still met with the families of hostages and vowed to work to bring them home. And earlier today, he tried to walk back his statements, saying that the attacks on Israel weren't justified and did not happen in a vacuum, and basically both Palestinians and Israelis, deserve to have their aspirations and their concerns met. But of course, the damage was done. Now, Ambassador Erdan said we need to punish the United Nations and tell them that this kind of rhetoric is absolutely unacceptable, and as a result, he has revoked the visa to visit Israel by the Undersecretary for UN Humanitarian Aid. So we will watch very carefully to see how this continues to play out. Meanwhile, let's talk about hostages, because earlier today, Tsachi Hanegbi, the head of the National Security Association, gave credit to Qatar for all of Qatar's behind-the-scenes diplomatic efforts to try and free Israel's hostages. This was noted by Qatar, who also warned that Israel's impending ground incursion could hamper the possibility of rescuing hostages. Now, we don't know when this ground incursion is going to happen. Of course, there is a lot of talk behind the scenes. Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak appealed for a lull or a pause in the firing and Israel's defense or military campaign. However, said he does not support a ceasefire. Most countries are of the opinion that Hamas has to be finished for once and for all. To those calling for a ceasefire, we had a ceasefire on the 6th of October, and look how that was violated. We know from our history that the cycle perpetuates and perpetuates and perpetuates. The Israeli people are demanding for once and for all put an end to Hamas, that puts an end to the terror that they rain down not only on us, but on the people of Gaza. And nobody is more acutely aware of Palestinians and their plight than Israelis. And this is what I want you to hear. I want you to hear from us, the Israelis, because many in the media are not hearing what we feel about the Palestinians. We don't hate them, not at all, but we want an end to the terror that holds and oppresses both of our people. His Holiness Pope Francis has also appealed for the immediate release of hostages, saying that he will engage in a day of fasting and prayer for their immediate release. Now, one person who doesn't seem to be productive in any way is Jordan's Queen Rania. Just a little bit of a background about her. She was born in Kuwait to Palestinian parents, and yesterday went on Christiana Manpour on CNN and basically unleashed a tirade against Israel and the West, accusing everybody of having double standards, accusing Israel of being an apartheid state, saying that the world is overreacting with regards to Hamas. I would just, Queen Rania, if this gets to you in any way, just ask you a few questions. First of all, what is the status of Palestinians who make up 25% of your population? What kind of status, what kind of life do they lead? Why are you not opening your borders to any Palestinian refugees? Is it because they possibly could pose a threat to the Hashemite king? As you can hear, we've got rocket alerts coming in for some part of the country. I would also caution Queen Rania, you are in one of the most powerful positions in our region. You have worked tirelessly for women and children. What about Israeli women and children? What about our women who were raped, tortured, brutalized, including our children? Coroners have claimed that Israeli women and children were raped so brutally their pelvic bones were shattered. A claim that we've heard Hamas admit to on camera, that they came to rape women and children. Where is your voice for them, Rania? By attacking the West, by portioning blame on President Biden, by making the comments that you have made, you have not only harmed your standing in the world, but you potentially could harm the diplomatic relations between countries and your country, the country that your husband is the leader of. Very, very disappointing. Queen Rania runs a foundation called the Queen Rania Children's Foundation. So if anyone has any complaints, please send them to her. We also have had the United Nations Relief Work Agency, UNRWA, appealing for more fuel. However, the IDF have confirmed that the Gaza Strip has plenty of fuel to fuel their desalination plant or whatever they need. a IDF spokesperson has said, we know how much fuel they've got. Here are the depots. They've got well over 500,000 litres of fuel. And he went on to say, we know they have it because we have let it in. We let it in before the 7th of October, so we know how much they have. Incidentally, he also went on to say that we are hearing reporting coming from Gaza on the internet, and therefore internet and electricity is working. And finally, the Iranian Ayatollah al-Khamenei has blamed America, or accused America, of directing Israel's bombardment of Gaza. So we are definitely hearing the rhetoric heating up. However, there are efforts underway behind the scenes as much as possible to dial down and dial back the rhetoric, which could seriously plunge our region into more chaos. And that brings me to the end of today's edition of the Israel Brief. I just want to caution everybody, there is so much being spread on WhatsApp. Please be very careful about what you share. Always ask yourself, could this potentially harm anybody? So just be aware of things like that. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our YouTube channel right here at the Israel Brief. If you like us, subscribe to us, and of course, share. Our Facebook community is at Lottel's site, and of course, we're on Twitter or X, whatever it's called, at Lay of the Land 5. I'm Rania Marks, wishing you all a wonderful rest of your day. Take care and stay safe.